I was sitting across from my husband at our favorite restaurant, watching him smile at me over candlelight, telling me how proud he was of us for working through everything, when his phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up. A message from her. The same woman. 6 months after he swore it was over. But here's the thing. I already knew. I'd known for 3 months. I had recordings. I had bank statements showing hotel rooms he thought he'd hidden. While he sat there holding my hand talking about trust and second chances, I was calculating exactly how much this dinner was going to cost him. Not the meal. See, 6 months earlier he came home crying. Told me he'd made a mistake. A 7-month affair. Begged for forgiveness. Promised he'd changed. And I looked him in the eyes and said I forgave him. We went to therapy. We renewed our vows privately. We talked about starting fresh. But the whole time I was smiling and nodding in that therapist's office, I was building something else. A case. An exit strategy that would leave him with nothing. Because that first confession? He didn't tell me everything. Not even close. And while he thought I was healing, I was investigating. And what I found was so much worse than one affair. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you how I spent 1 year systematically dismantling my husband's entire life, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment and tell me what city or state you're watching from. And hit that like button and subscribe because trust me, what happens next is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about forgiveness and revenge. This story has layers you won't see coming. Now let me take you back to the beginning, to the day I found out, and to the moment I decided that being the bigger person was overrated. My name is Sarah Chen. I'm 34 years old. I work as a financial analyst at a mid-sized consulting firm. My husband David is 37. He's a sales director at a tech startup. We've been married for 9 years. No kids. We always said we'd wait until we were more established. That decision is about to save my life. The day everything changed was a Tuesday, March 15th. I remember because it was the day before our anniversary. David had texted me that morning saying he had a surprise planned. Something special. I remember smiling at my desk thinking maybe this rough patch we'd been going through was finally ending. I had no idea the rough patch was about to become a crater. I left work early that day. My boss let me go at 3 because I'd been putting in extra hours on a new client account. I stopped at the store and picked up ingredients for David's favorite meal. Herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables. I even grabbed a bottle of that expensive wine he likes. The one that costs $60. When I got home, his car was in the driveway. That was unusual. He normally didn't get back until 6 or 7. I remember feeling a little flutter of excitement. Maybe he'd taken off early too. Maybe we could start our anniversary celebration a day early. I walked in through the garage, set the groceries on the kitchen counter, called out his name. No answer. His briefcase was on the hallway table, his keys in the bowl by the door, his shoes kicked off near the stairs. He was definitely home. I called his name again. Still nothing. That's when I heard it. A voice. Muffled. Coming from upstairs. From our bedroom. My stomach dropped. But not for the reason you'd think. Not yet. I thought maybe he was on a work call, or watching something on his laptop. I walked upstairs, still carrying the wine bottle, still thinking about our anniversary dinner. The bedroom door was closed, not locked, and through it I could hear him talking. His voice was low, soft. The tone he used to use with me. Before things got comfortable. Before 9 years of marriage turned romance into routine. I put my hand on the doorknob. And that's when I heard him say a name. Jessica, not Jess. Not a work colleague. Jessica. Intimate. Familiar. The way you say someone's name when you've said it 1,000 times before. I opened the door. He was lying on our bed, on his back, phone pressed to his ear, smiling. Actually smiling. That smile I hadn't seen in months. And he was saying things. Things I hadn't heard in even longer. I miss you too. I can't wait to see you. This weekend is going to be perfect. He didn't hear me come in. The door had opened quietly. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, watching my husband plan a weekend with another woman while lying on the bed we'd shared for 9 years. Then he turned his head and saw me. The smile died instantly. His face went white. He sat up so fast his phone fell onto the comforter. I could hear a tiny voice still talking from the speaker. A woman's voice. Light. Happy. Completely unaware that the fantasy was about to crack. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the wine bottle, even though every muscle in my body wanted to. I did something that surprised both of us. I smiled. Not a real smile. A careful one. The kind you give a client when they're pitching you something you know is garbage, but you have to stay professional. And I said, in the calmest voice I could manage, "Who's Jessica?" David grabbed his phone, ended the call, stood up. His hands were shaking. His mouth opened and closed like he was trying out different lies to see which one fit. Finally he said, "Sarah, let me explain." And that right there, that was the moment. Not when I caught him, but when he said, "Let me explain," like there was an explanation that would make this okay. Like the right combination of words could rewind the last 60 seconds and put us back in a world where I hadn't just heard my husband tell another woman he couldn't wait to see her. I set the wine bottle down on the dresser, deliberately, giving myself time to think. My hands weren't shaking yet, but I knew they would be soon. Adrenaline does that. It hits in waves. "Okay," I said. He started talking. The words came out in a rush. It was a mistake. He never meant for it to happen. She worked at a client company. They gotten close during a project. It had only been physical a few times. He was going to end it. He just hadn't found the right time. I let him talk. I watched his face, watched him calculate each sentence, watched him try to figure out how much I'd heard, how much he could minimize. When he finally stopped, I asked one question. "How long?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. 7 months? He finally said. 7 months. More than half a year, while we'd been going to his company parties together, while we'd been visiting my parents for Christmas, while we'd been talking about maybe finally trying for kids. 7 months of lying. Every single day. I nodded slowly, like I was processing technical data. Like this was a problem I could solve with the right analysis. "Okay," I said again. David looked confused. He'd been bracing for an explosion. For tears. For me to kick him out or throw things or call my mother. Instead, I was standing there nodding like he'd just told me he'd be late for dinner. "Okay? I need to think," I said. "I'm going to go stay at Amy's for a few days. Amy was my best friend since college." "Sarah, please. Can we just talk about this? I love you. This thing with Jessica, it doesn't mean anything. She doesn't mean anything." I picked up the wine bottle, walked past him, stopped at the doorway and turned back. 7 months isn't nothing, David. Then I went downstairs, put the wine back in my bag, left the groceries on the counter, grabbed my purse and my laptop and walked out to my car. My hands started shaking when I hit the freeway. I had to pull over at a rest stop. That's when the tears came. Not sad tears. Angry tears. The kind that make your whole body hot and your vision blur. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, crying, shaking, wanting to scream. But underneath the emotion, something else was happening. Something cold and clear. My analyst brain was kicking in. Processing, calculating. 7 months. He said it had only been physical a few times. That was a lie. You don't plan perfect weekends with someone you've only been physical with a few times. 7 months meant planning, coordination. A whole second life built in the gaps of our marriage. He said he was going to end it. Another lie. I'd heard him on the phone. This weekend is going to be perfect. He wasn't ending anything. He was escalating something. He said she didn't mean anything. The biggest lie of all. Because if she didn't mean anything, why risk everything? I pulled out my phone, called Amy. She answered on the second ring. Hey, I was just thinking about you. What's up? Can I stay with you for a few days? My voice was steady. The crying was done. Of course. Are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. I'll explain when I get there. I hung up. Started the car. Got back on the freeway. And that's when the plan started forming. Not a full plan. Not yet. Just the seed of one. A tiny voice in the back of my head asking a very simple question. If he's been lying for 7 months, what else has he been lying about? I didn't know it yet. But that question was about to unravel everything. Because David wasn't just having an affair. He was hiding something much bigger. And while he thought I was at Amy's apartment crying and processing and trying to figure out if I could forgive him, I was about to become something he never expected. An investigator. But first, I needed to make him think he still had a chance. Because the best way to catch someone is to let them think they're getting away with it. I pulled into Amy's complex and parked. Sat in the car for a moment. Took a deep breath. Then I did something that would set everything in motion. I texted David. I need space to think. Please don't contact me for a few days. When I'm ready to talk, I'll reach out. His response came in seconds. Multiple messages. Begging. Apologizing. Promising. I didn't read them. I turned off my phone and went inside. Amy took one look at my face and poured 2 glasses of wine. I told her everything. She wanted to drive over to our house and set his car on fire. I almost let her, but instead I said something that made her stop mid-rant. I'm not going to react. Not yet. First I'm going to find out exactly what he's been doing. And then I'm going to decide how to handle it. Amy stared at me. You sound terrifying. Good, I said. What I didn't tell her, what I was barely admitting to myself, was that part of me already knew I wasn't going to forgive him. Part of me had made the decision the second I saw him smiling on that phone. But I needed him to think there was still hope. I needed him calm, cooperative, willing to share details. Because over the next few days, David was going to tell me a lot of things. And most of them were going to be lies. But buried in those lies would be enough truth for me to start digging. 3 days later, I called David. Told him I was ready to talk. He sounded so relieved. So hopeful. Like maybe this was going to be okay. Like maybe I was going to be the understanding wife who forgave and forgot. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. He ordered for both of us. My usual. Vanilla latte with an extra shot. He remembered. Of course he did. He was trying. We sat down and he immediately started apologizing again. I let him talk. Watched his body language. Listened for inconsistencies. And there were so many. His timeline didn't quite match. The story about how they met had small differences from the bedroom version. Tiny details. Things most people wouldn't catch. But I catch details. It's literally my job. When he finished, I asked him one question. Do you want to save this marriage? His eyes got wet. He reached across the table and grabbed my hand. More than anything. I nodded. Squeezed his hand back. Let him think he was getting through to me. Okay, I said. Then we do this right. Couples therapy. Complete honesty. No more contact with Jessica. And David? I looked him straight in the eyes. If I find out you're lying to me about anything else, I'm gone. No second chances. No discussion. He nodded so hard I thought his neck would snap. I promise. Complete honesty. Starting now. That promise lasted exactly for days. Because what David didn't know was that before I called him, I'd done something else. Something that would change everything. I'd hired a private investigator. The private investigator's name was Marcus Webb. He operated out of a small office above a dry cleaner in downtown. Amy had recommended him. Her cousin had used him during her own divorce. He was expensive, $200 an hour plus expenses. But he was discreet and he was thorough. Our first meeting was the day before I called David to reconcile. I told Marcus everything. The affair, the timeline, the inconsistencies in David's story. And then I told him what I really wanted. I don't just want to know if he's still seeing her. I want to know everything. Where he goes, who he talks to, what he does with his money. If he's hiding anything else, I need to know what it is. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He was maybe 50, gray at the temples, wore a wedding ring. He'd probably seen 1,000 versions of this story. You're not looking for closure, he said. You're building a case. Yes. He nodded slowly. That's smart. Crying. Wanting proof just so they can confront and feel validated. You're thinking ahead. That tells me you're serious. I am. Good. Because what I'm about to tell you is important. If you want this done right, you can't react to anything you learn. Not until we have everything. If he suspects you're investigating, he'll cover his tracks. Delete evidence. Move money. Whatever he's hiding will disappear. I understand. Can you do that? Can you sit across from him at dinner and smile while knowing he's lying to your face? I thought about that question. A week ago, I would have said no. A week ago, I thought I knew who I was. A week ago, I believed in confronting problems directly and honestly. But that was before I watched my husband plan a romantic weekend with another woman on our bed. Yes, I said. Marcus smiled. Not a happy smile. Then let's get started. He had me sign a contract. Took a retainer of $3,000. I paid it from my personal account. The one David didn't have access to. The one I'd opened years ago when my grandmother died and left me some money. David knew about it, but he'd never asked how much was in there. He assumed it was a few thousand for emergencies. It was actually $87,000. My grandmother had been better at saving than anyone knew, and now that money was going to help me take down her grandson-in-law. Marcus told me it would take about a week to establish David's patterns, where he went after work, whether he was still seeing Jessica. He also suggested something I hadn't thought of. I'm going to run a financial background check, credit report, bank records I can access legally, property records, just to see if anything unusual pops up. Sometimes affairs are just affairs. Like what? Hidden accounts, secret credit cards, property purchased under an LLC. I've seen people fund entire second lives, apartments for mistresses, joint accounts with affair partners. If he's been doing this, there's a money trail somewhere. That made sense. My analyst brain lit up. Money always left trails. You just had to know where to look. Do it, I said. That was a Thursday. By the following Tuesday, Marcus called me with his first report. I stepped into an empty conference room and closed the door. He's still seeing her, Marcus said without preamble. Saturday afternoon. He told someone on the phone he had a work conference in Portland this weekend. He didn't go to Portland. He went to a hotel 20 minutes from your house. Same hotel. Room 214. He's used that room 3 times in the last month. My stomach twisted, but my voice stayed level. Okay. The financial background is interesting. He's got a credit card you don't know about. Opened it 2 years ago. It's under his name only, but it lists your home address. Current balance is $18,000. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry purchases, airline tickets. All charges consistent with maintaining a relationship. 2 years. Not 7 months. 2. I sat down hard in one of the conference room chairs. Sarah, you still there? He said 7 months. I said quietly. He looked me in the eyes and said 7 months. I'm sorry. The credit card history goes back 24 months. Either the affair is older than he admitted, or there was someone before Jessica, or both. My brain was spinning, recalculating everything. Every anniversary in the last 2 years. Every vacation. Every time he'd told me he loved me. Every time we'd made plans for the future. How much of it had been lies? There's more, Marcus said. I'm still digging. But I found something else. An LLC registered in his name. Formed 18 months ago. Chen Consulting Solutions. I'm trying to figure out what it's for. Could be legitimate business. But the timing bothers me. Keep digging. I will. But Sarah, I need to ask. Are you okay? This is a lot to process. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. But I would be. Because now I had information. And information was power. That night David came home with flowers. Roses. He'd also made a reservation at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. He was trying so hard. Playing the role of the remorseful husband perfectly. I played my role too. The cautiously optimistic wife. Willing to try. Wanting to believe. We went to dinner. He talked about therapy. About how grateful he was that I was giving him another chance. About how he'd ended things with Jessica. How it was painful but necessary. How he'd told her he loved his wife and he was committed to making things work. I smiled. Nodded. Reached across the table and held his hand. Let him think it was working. And the whole time I was thinking about that credit card. $18,000. The 7-month confession was just what he could admit to. The minimum viable truth. He'd calculated how much I might have discovered and confessed to just enough to seem honest. But not everything. Never everything. We started couples therapy the following week. Dr. Linda Morrison. She had an office in a professional building near the hospital. 45-minute sessions. Once a week. $250 per session that we paid out of our joint account. David was so earnest in those sessions. Talking about his feelings, his fears, his commitment to change. He cried during the second session. Actual tears. Talking about how scared he was of losing me. How much he loved me. How stupid he'd been. Dr. Morrison seemed impressed by his vulnerability. She kept saying things like, "This is good work and you're really opening up." I played along, talked about my hurt, my trust issues, my cautious hope that we could rebuild. I even cried once. Real tears. Because even though I was planning his destruction, part of me still grieved what we'd had. Or what I thought we'd had. After the third session, Dr. Morrison asked to speak with me alone. David went to the waiting room. She closed the door and looked at me carefully. "Sarah, I want to check in with you. How are you really doing with all of this? It's hard, but I think we're making progress. Do you trust him?" I hesitated. Calculated how much truth to share. "I want to." That's not what I asked. Dr. Morrison was sharper than I'd given her credit for. I adjusted my answer. "No. Not yet. But I'm hoping I will eventually." She nodded. "Trust takes time to rebuild. It can't be rushed. And Sarah, I want you to know something. You don't owe him forgiveness. You don't owe him reconciliation. If at any point you decide this isn't working, that's a valid choice. You being here doesn't mean you have to stay." I know. Do you? Because sometimes people stay in therapy because they feel like they should try. Like leaving would mean they didn't try hard enough. But you've already been incredibly generous by even being here. I felt something crack in my chest. A little piece of the armor I'd been building. Because she was right. I didn't owe him anything. I was here because I was gathering information. Because I needed him calm and unsuspecting while I investigated. But part of me had been carrying guilt. Like maybe I should try harder. Like maybe I was being cold and calculating when I should be emotional and forgiving. Dr. Morrison's words gave me permission to stop feeling guilty. "Thank you," I said quietly. She smiled. "Take your time. There's no rush. And if you need to talk privately anytime, you can always call me." That night, while David was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it. A text message. The preview showed on the lock screen. "Miss you already." No name. Just a heart emoji. My hand shook as I picked up his phone. I knew his passcode. March 15th. How pathetic that he'd used that as his code while cheating on me with the same woman for over 2 years. I unlocked it and opened his messages. Jessica, but not under her real name. Under Jake from accounting. Clever. If I'd ever glanced at his phone before, I wouldn't have thought twice about messages from Jake. I scrolled through the conversation. They went back weeks. Right through his confession to me. Right through our therapy sessions. Right through every promise he'd made. They were planning a trip. Next month. A long weekend in wine country. He told her I was traveling for work. That they'd have 3 full days together. No interruptions. No hiding. The messages were intimate. Loving. He told her things he used to tell me. Called her names he used to call me. Made promises about a future together. I took screenshots. Methodically. Every message. Every photo he'd sent her. Every plan they'd made. I sent them all to my own phone. Then I went into his sent messages to me and deleted the evidence of the transfer. Put his phone back on the nightstand exactly where it had been. When he came out of the shower, I was already in bed. Pretending to read, he climbed in next to me. Kissed my shoulder. Told me he loved me. "I love you too," I said. The words tasted like poison. The next morning I sent the screenshots to Marcus. He called me back within an hour. Okay, so he's definitely still lying. The affair never stopped. "But Sarah, I've got something bigger. That LLC I mentioned, I found out what it's for." "Tell me." "It's a consulting company. On paper, it's legitimate. He's been invoicing his employer through it. Instead of being paid as a regular employee for certain projects, he's structured himself as an independent contractor. It's a tax strategy. Probably saves him money. But here's the thing. The business account associated with that LLC has over $200,000 in it." I stopped breathing. 200,000. Yeah. And Sarah, I pulled your joint tax returns from the last 3 years. You filed jointly, right? Yes. Did you review them carefully before you signed? I tried to remember. David always handled the taxes. He'd print them out, show me where to sign, and I'd skim through quickly before signing. I'd been busy with work, traveling for client meetings. I trusted him to handle it correctly, not as carefully as I should have, I admitted. He's been underreporting his income on your joint returns. The LLC revenue isn't included. He's filing a separate business return, which means that $200,000. According to your joint tax filings, it doesn't exist. And in a divorce, you'd have no legal claim to it because it's not considered marital property. My brain was working overtime, processing, understanding. David hadn't just been having an affair, he'd been systematically hiding money. Building a financial cushion I didn't know about. Setting up an escape fund. And he'd been doing it for years while I contributed my full salary to our joint accounts. That's fraud, I said slowly. Potentially, yes. Tax fraud with the IRS. And possibly divorce fraud if he's been planning this while hiding marital assets. But I'm not a lawyer. You need to talk to one. How much total do you think he's hidden? I'm still calculating. But Sarah, based on what I'm seeing so far, It could be close to $500,000 over the last 3 years. $500,000. While I'd been working my 60-hour weeks. While I'd been putting every paycheck into our joint account. While I'd been planning our future together. He'd been siphoning money away. Preparing for a future without me. What do I do? My voice sounded far away. First, don't react. Don't let him know you know any of this. Second, give me 2 more weeks. I'll compile a complete financial report. Every account. Every transaction I can legally access. Third, you need to talk to a lawyer who specializes in forensic accounting and high-asset divorces. Someone who can review what I find and use it in court. Okay, Sarah, I'm serious. Can you keep playing this role for 2 more weeks? Because if you confront him now, before we have everything documented, he'll start hiding things, moving money, deleting evidence. I thought about sitting across from him at dinner, pretending to work on our marriage, while knowing he was stealing from me, while knowing every word out of his mouth was a calculated lie. 2 weeks ago, I would have said I couldn't do it. Now, I can do it. All right. That therapy session was different for me. I watched David with new eyes, listened to his words with new understanding. Every promise was a calculation. Every tear was a performance. Every moment of vulnerability was designed to manipulate Dr. Morrison and manipulate me. He was good at it. Really good. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have believed him completely. Dr. Morrison asked us about intimacy. Whether we'd been reconnecting physically. David said we were taking it slow. Being patient with each other. Respecting my need for space and time. He reached over and squeezed my hand. Looked at me with such false sincerity it made my skin crawl. Squeezed back. Smiled softly. Said all the right things about feeling closer. About being grateful for his patience. And planned his destruction. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Every dinner, every conversation, every moment I had to pretend was agony, but I did it. Because I had a goal now. Not reconciliation. Obliteration. 2 weeks and 3 days after I'd hired Marcus, something happened that changed everything. I came home from work early. David's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I needed time alone. Time to think without having to perform. I opened the door, walked into the kitchen, and froze. There was a woman sitting at my kitchen table. She looked up at me. She was younger than me. Maybe 28. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Professional clothes. Designer bag on the chair next to her. And she'd been crying. Her mascara was smudged. Her eyes were red. Who are you? I kept my voice level. Calm. Didn't move closer. How did you get in here? She stood up. Her hands were shaking. The spare key, under the plant pot by the back door. David told me where it was. She took a breath. My name is Jessica, and we need to talk. My first instinct was to call the police. My second was to throw her out. But my analyst brain kicked in faster than my emotions. Because Jessica being here uninvited, crying in my kitchen, meant something had happened. Something that made her desperate enough to break into my home. And desperate people give information. I set my bag down on the counter, pulled out a chair, sat down across from her, kept the table between us. Talk. Jessica wiped her eyes. Really looked at me. I'm not here to apologize. I know that's what you think. That I came to beg for forgiveness or clear my conscience. I didn't. I came because I'm angry. And I think you deserve to know what kind of man you're married to. I know what kind of man I'm married to. You're sleeping with him. She flinched. I was. But as of 3 days ago, I'm done. 2.5 years. Not 7 months like he'd told me. Not even the 2 years Marcus had found on the credit card. 2.5 years. Why? Why am I done? Or why did I do it in the first place? Both? Jessica sat back down, folded her hands on the table, and started talking. I work for Meridian Ec. David's company uses us as a vendor for their sales software platform. We met at a conference 3 years ago. He was charming, funny, attentive in a way most men aren't. He asked me out for drinks after the keynote speech. Did he tell you he was married? Not at first. He wore his wedding ring, but when I asked about it, he said it was complicated. That you two were separated, living together for financial reasons, but the marriage was emotionally over. That divorce was coming, but he had to wait for the right time because of his family. Because of your families. She laughed bitterly. When did you find out the truth? About 6 months in. I saw a photo on his phone. You and him at some charity event. You were wearing a dress I'd helped him pick out. He'd told me it was a gift for his sister's birthday. That's when I realized. You weren't separated. You weren't getting divorced. You were very much together. Very much married. And you stayed with him anyway. Her face flushed. I confronted him. He cried. Said he'd been trying to find the right time to leave you, but he was scared. That his parents would disown him. That you'd take everything in a divorce. He made me feel sorry for him. Made me feel like I was helping him escape an unhappy situation. So you became his mistress. I became an idiot. She said it flatly, without emotion. I told myself it was temporary. That eventually he'd choose me. He kept promising. Next month. After this work project. After the holidays. After your anniversary. There was always a reason to wait. When did you realize he was lying? Jessica's hands clenched on the table. Last week. He told me he needed to take a step back. That you'd found out about us and he had to go to couples therapy to keep you from filing for divorce. He said it was all performance. That he'd play the remorseful husband until things calmed down and then he'd leave you for real. That I just needed to be patient a little longer. That matched his timeline, his confession to me. The tears and promises. But 3 days ago, I found out I'm not the only one. There's another woman. Her name is Amber. She works at his gym. They've been seeing each other for 10 months. Jessica's voice cracked. And Sarah, she doesn't know about you. He told her he's divorced. That he's been single for 2 years. That he's ready to settle down and start a family. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table. David wasn't just having an affair. He was having multiple affairs simultaneously. Different stories for different women. And somehow he'd been managing all of it while playing devoted husband at home and remorseful ex-lover with Jessica. How did you find out about Amber? I went to his gym. Stupid. I know. I was feeling insecure about the whole therapy thing and I wanted to see him. Remind him why we were together. I saw them in the parking lot. In his car, kissing. Not a casual kiss. The kind of kiss you give someone you love. What did you do? I waited for her to leave. Followed her car. Got her license plate. Ran it through a contact I have who works for the DMV. Found out her name. Looked her up on social media. Then I sent her a message. Jessica pulled out her phone. Opened it. Showed me the conversation. Jessica had messaged D. Are you seeing David Chen? Amber had responded, who is this? How did you get my number? Jessica, I've been seeing him for over 2 years. I just found out about you. I think we need to talk. Amber, this is a joke, right? David is divorced. He's been single since we met. Jessica had then sent photos. David and Jessica together at restaurants, at hotels. Selfies. Date stamps going back years. And then the nuclear bomb. Jessica had sent Amber a photo of David's Facebook page. The one he'd locked down. The one that still showed his relationship status from years ago. Married to Sarah Chen. The conversation had ended with Amber writing, "Oh my God." I looked up at Jessica. Did she confront him? I don't know. She blocked me after that. I tried calling. Nothing. Then why are you here? Jessica reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, slid it across the table to me. Because 6 months ago, David asked me for money. He said he was starting a consulting business, his own company. He needed investors to get it off the ground. He pitched it as our future. Money we'd use to build a life together once he finally left you. I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, investment contracts, business proposals, all printed on professional letterhead for Chen Consulting Solutions. The same LLC Marcus had found. How much did you give him? I asked quietly. $50,000. My entire savings. Money I'd been putting away since college for a house down payment. For my future. Her voice broke. He said he'd double it within a year. Give me a return on my investment plus equity in the company. Said we'd be partners in every way. No. He kept saying the paperwork was delayed. That his business lawyer was working on it. That it would be ready soon. But it never came. And when I asked about my investment or asked to see the company's books, he'd change the subject. Say the business was still in growth phase. That I needed to be patient and trust him. You think he stole your money? I don't think. I know. Jessica's eyes hardened. Because 2 days ago, after I found out about Amber, I hired a private investigator. I called in a favor from a friend who does corporate fraud investigations. She looked into Chen Consulting Solutions. Sarah, there is no consulting business. The address on file is a mailboxes, etc. There are no employees. No office. No clients except a few invoices David created to his own employer. How much money? My investigator found over $400,000 in the business account. $400,000. That's not just my 50. That's years of hidden income, and I'm guessing you didn't know about any of it. I didn't confirm or deny. Just stared at the documents in front of me. What do you want from me? I asked. Jessica leaned forward. I want my money back. And I want him to pay for what he did. Not just to me, to all of us. Amber. However many others there might be that we don't even know about yet. So you want revenge. I want justice. And I can't get it alone. But if we work together, if we coordinate, we can make sure he doesn't get away with this. Any of it. I studied her. This woman who'd been sleeping with my husband for 2.5 years. Who'd believed his lies because they were convenient. Who'd only cared about the truth when it affected her personally. But she also had information I needed. Financial documents Marcus didn't have access to. Proof of fraud. Evidence that could turn a divorce into a criminal case. Why should I trust you? I asked. You've been lying to me for 2.5 years. I haven't been lying to you. I didn't even know you existed for the first 6 months. After that, I was lying to myself. Believing what I wanted to believe. But I'm not lying anymore. She met my eyes. You're not the villain here. Neither am I. He is. And I think we're both done being his victims. She was right. But I wasn't ready to admit it yet. I need to think about this. We don't have time to think. Jessica's voice was urgent. Amber knows now. She's probably confronting him right now. And when she does, he's going to panic. He's going to start moving money. Deleting files. Covering his tracks. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. She was right. But I needed to be smart. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Emergency at work. Project crisis. Going to be late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Jessica's phone buzzed at the same time. She looked at it. Her face went pale. He just texted me too. Word for word. Emergency at work. Going to be late. We stared at each other across the table. Both holding our phones. Both receiving identical lies at the exact same moment. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Mrs. Chen Chen? Young, shaky, on the edge of tears. Yes. Who is this? My name is Amber Rodriguez. Jessica gave me your number. I'm sorry to call like this, but I need to talk to you. I need you to know something. She took a shuddering breath. I just found out I'm pregnant. And David is the father. The coffee shop was 15 minutes away. Jessica and I drove separately. Didn't talk. Just got in our cars and went. Amber was sitting in the back corner when we arrived. She was younger than both of us. Maybe 26, blonde hair, athletic build, the kind of beautiful that comes from discipline and routine. And she looked terrified. She stood when she saw us. Started crying immediately. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was married. I never would have. If I'd known. She couldn't finish the sentence. Just stood there crying. I didn't know what to feel. Pity? Exhaustion? I settled on practicality. Sit down. I said, not unkind, just firm. Tell us everything. Amber sat, wiped her eyes, and started talking. She'd met David 11 months ago. Not 10 like Jessica had said. 11. He'd been working out at her gym, LA Fitness on Riverside. She was a personal trainer there. He'd approached her about nutrition advice, then workout programming, then asked her out for coffee to discuss fitness goals. She'd said no at first. She had a policy against dating clients, but he'd been persistent. Not creepy persistent, charming persistent. He'd switched to a different trainer, said he didn't want her to violate her professional boundaries, and then asked again. She'd said yes. He told me he was divorced, Amber said. 2 years divorced. Said his ex-wife lived in Seattle. That they'd split amicably but she'd moved away for work. He showed me pictures of himself at the gym. Never any photos with women. Never any signs of a relationship. I believed him. When did it get serious? I asked. Fast. Within 2 months we were exclusive. He talked about wanting kids. About settling down. He said he'd wasted his 30s in a bad marriage and now he was ready to do it right. To find someone real. She pulled out her phone. Showed us messages. David talking about their future. About houses they could buy together. About names for their future kids. Messages that looked exactly like the ones he'd sent Jessica. The same promises. The same dreams. Just copy-pasted to a different woman. I got pregnant 6 weeks ago, Amber said quietly. I found out 8 days ago. I took 3 tests to be sure. I was scared but also excited. We talked about kids. I thought he'd be happy. You didn't tell him right away? Jessica asked. No. I wanted to wait. Find the right moment. Make it special. She laughed bitterly. Then yesterday I got Jessica's message. The photos. The truth. I spent all night looking through his social media, finding old posts he'd missed when he locked everything down. Posts from years ago with you, Sarah. Anniversary posts. Vacation photos. All these moments of a life I didn't know existed. Did you confront him? I asked. This morning, I went to his office. Walked right past the receptionist. Found him at his desk. I showed him Jessica's message. The photos. I asked him to explain. What did he say? He tried to lie at first. Said Jessica was crazy. That she was a former colleague who'd developed an unhealthy obsession with him. That the photos were from a work event. But I had evidence. Dated photos. Messages. I told him I contacted Jessica. That I knew everything. And then he changed tactics. Admitted he was married but said he was leaving you. That he'd been trying to find the right time. That Jessica was a mistake from years ago that he'd ended. That I was the one he wanted. Amber's hands were shaking. That's when I told him I was pregnant. What did he do? He went completely white. Asked if I was sure. I showed him the tests. 3 positive pregnancy tests. And then David did something I'll never forget. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He offered me $10,000 to get an abortion and disappear. Jessica inhaled sharply. I felt something cold settle in my chest. He what? $10,000. Cash. He said he'd have it by tomorrow. That I could go to a clinic, take care of it, and we'd both move on with our lives. That no one needed to know. That it would be better for everyone. What did you say? I slapped him. Hard. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour. Just sitting there, shaking. And then Jessica called me. I looked at Jessica. She nodded. I'd been trying to reach her all morning. When she finally answered, I told her about you, about David still being married. She told me about the pregnancy. That's when we realized we needed to talk to you. So here we are, I said. 3 women. What do we do? Amber looked at me. I don't know what you're planning. I don't know if you're divorcing him or working it out. A support system. I can do this alone if I have to. But I'm not taking his money to make his problem go away. Good, I said. But I also can't afford a lawyer for child support. Not a good one. And I don't know how any of this works. Paternity tests, court filings. He told me he was divorced. I believed him. Does that make me responsible somehow? No, Jessica said firmly. He lied to you. You're not responsible for his lies. I pulled out my phone, created a group chat, added both their numbers. What are you doing? Amber asked. Organizing, I said. You want justice, Jessica? Amber, I want a divorce. But we're all fighting the same person. So we coordinate. We share information. We document everything. And we make sure that when this ends, David loses. Everything. You have a plan? Jessica asked. I'm building one. I looked at both of them. But I need to know something first. Can you wait? Both of you? Because if we move too fast, if we confront him before everything is in place, he'll run. Or hide evidence. Or move money. We get one shot at this. We have to make it count. How long? Amber asked. 1 week? Maybe 2. I have a private investigator compiling a financial report. I need to talk to a lawyer. A good one who specializes in fraud and hidden assets. Jessica, you need to file a police report about the $50,000. That's grand larceny. Criminal charges. What about me? Amber asked. You wait. Let him think you're considering his offer. When the time comes, you'll file a paternity suit. Once paternity is established, the court will require full financial disclosure. Everything will come out then. His hidden accounts. His fraudulent business. All of it. When? Jessica pressed. I'll know more in 3 days. I meet with my lawyer tomorrow. Marcus should have the financial report done by Friday. Monday or Tuesday. Hit him from all sides at once. Divorce papers. Police report. Paternity suit. Freeze his assets so he can't hide money. Make it public so he can't spin a story. He's going to be angry. Amber said quietly. He's going to be destroyed, I corrected. But until then, we act normal. We don't tell anyone what we're planning. Not friends. No one. Because if he suspects we're working together, this whole thing falls apart. They both nodded. One more thing, I said. From now on, we document everything. Every text he sends. Every call. Every lie. Screenshot it. Save it. Back it up to the cloud. We're building a case. Not just for divorce court. For criminal court. I showed them how to set up the group chat with end-to-end encryption. How to automatically back up their messages. How to screen record phone calls. What if he finds out? He won't. Because we're smarter than he thinks we are. He's been juggling us separately, keeping us divided. Now we're united. And he has no idea. We sat there for a moment. 3 women who shouldn't be allies, who had every reason to hate each other. But we were united by something stronger than animosity. We were united by survival. My phone buzzed. Text from David. Crisis resolved. Heading home now. Want me to pick up dinner? Jessica's phone buzzed. Same message but slightly different. Miss you. This work thing is finally done. Tomorrow night? Amber's phone buzzed. Hey, can we talk? I know today was rough, but I want to explain. Please give me a chance. We showed each other our phones. The same man. Different lies. Tailored to each relationship. What do I say? Amber asked. Tell him you need time to think. I said. That you're processing everything. That you'll reach out when you're ready. Keep him uncertain but hopeful. And me? Jessica asked. Tell him you understand he's busy with work. That you're looking forward to tomorrow. Play along. Act like nothing changed. And you? I tell him dinner sounds great. That I love him. That I'm grateful we're working through this. I looked at both of them. Because for the next week, we're actresses. We play our parts perfectly. We make him believe everything is fine. And then we destroy him. I drove home. David's car was in the driveway. I sat for a moment. Got into character. Then I walked inside with a smile on my face. He was in the kitchen, setting out Chinese takeout. He turned when he heard me. Smiled. Came over and kissed me. How was your day? Long, but good. How was yours? Stressful. That project crisis I mentioned. But it's resolved now. He handed me a glass of wine. I got your favorite. Mongolian beef. Thank you. We sat down. Ate dinner. He talked about work. About therapy. About how much better he was feeling about us. I nodded. Asked questions. Smiled at the right moments. And the entire time I was thinking about Amber. 6 weeks pregnant. Offered $10,000 to abort his child. About Jessica. $50,000 stolen. About the $400,000 in hidden accounts. About the life insurance policy Marcus had found. David reached across the table. Took my hand. I love you, Sarah. I know I've said it a lot lately, but I mean it. You're my everything. I squeezed his hand back. I love you too. The words were automatic now. Just sounds. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay next to David, listening to him breathe, and thought about the next week, about all the things that had to happen, all the ways this could go wrong. At 2 a.m., I got up, went downstairs, called Marcus. Sarah? Everything okay? I need the report finished faster. Something happened. We need to move by next week. What happened? I told him. About Amber. About the pregnancy. About the $10,000 offer. He was quiet for a long moment. Okay. I can have the preliminary report to you by Friday morning. Full report by Monday. You need to be careful. This is escalating. If David suspects. He won't. We're being careful. Men like this, when they're cornered, they do unpredictable things. I know. Do you? Because you're not just planning a divorce anymore. You're planning to send him to prison. For fraud. For theft. Maybe more. He's going to fight back. Let him try. Marcus sighed. But Sarah? Don't stay in that house alone with him. Not after we file. Promise me. I promise. I hung up. Went back upstairs. David was still asleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching him. This stranger I'd shared a bed with for 9 years. Who was he really? I didn't know, maybe I never had. But I was about to find out. Friday morning, 6 a.m., I was at Amy's apartment drinking coffee when Marcus sent the report. 217 pages. I started reading. By page 20, I had to stop. Put my head in my hands. Breathe. The scope of David's fraud was staggering. The LLC wasn't just hiding money. It was a hub, a central point for a network of financial deception that went back 3 full years. He'd created fake employees, generated false invoices, claimed business expenses that didn't exist, structured his income to avoid taxes. Total amount moved through the system $942,000. Almost $1 million. Some of it was legitimate salary that he'd restructured, but a lot of it wasn't. Loans taken out using our house as collateral without my knowledge. He'd forged my signature. Marcus had found the documents. Investment accounts opened using my social security number. Loans taken against those accounts. $40,000 here, $60,000 there. 7 credit cards I didn't know about. Total debt $93,000. A secret apartment. Rented for 14 months. $600 a month in cash. And then, the life insurance policy. $500,000. Taken out 2 years ago. I was listed as having multiple pre-existing health conditions I didn't actually have. Heart disease. High blood pressure. Marcus had added a note. The false health conditions are significant. If you died of natural causes related to these conditions, there would be less investigation. This suggests planning for a scenario where your death would benefit him financially. Recommend reporting to police immediately. I sat there, staring at those words, at the implication I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. David hadn't just been stealing from me. He'd been keeping options open. My phone buzzed. Jessica. I can't sleep. Filed the police report this morning. Detective wants to interview me next week. Amber. He called me last night. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Says he loves me. That we can work this out. I want to throw my phone across the room. Me stay strong. We're almost there. I'm meeting with my lawyer this morning. We move Monday. I forwarded them the note about the life insurance policy. Jessica, oh my God, Sarah. Right now. Amber, this is insane. He's actually dangerous. Me, I'm at Amy's. I'm safe. But this goes in the police report. It's evidence. At 9 a.m. I was in Catherine Park's office. She was the lawyer Marcus had recommended. 50 years old. Sharp eyes. I handed her the report. She read it. All 217 pages. Took her 2 hours. I sat there drinking coffee and watching her face get progressively more serious. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Chen. In 20 years of practice, I've never seen fraud this systematic from someone who wasn't a professional criminal. Your husband has committed multiple felonies. Fraud. Forgery. Tax evasion. And the life insurance policy. She shook her head. That's potentially conspiracy to commit murder. Can you help me? Yes. But I need to be very clear about what's going to happen. If we pursue this aggressively, if we report all the criminal activity, your husband will likely face significant prison time. 10 to 20 years. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Amber. Offered money to abort. Yes. Good. Because here's the plan. Monday morning, we file for divorce. Simultaneously, we file an emergency motion to freeze all assets. We'll present this report as evidence of marital fraud. The judge will grant a temporary freeze while the case is investigated. What about the criminal charges? Jessica's police report will trigger an investigation. This becomes a federal case. Timeline? Divorce will take a year minimum with this much complexity. Criminal case could take 2 to 3 years. But Mrs. Chen, we need to discuss something important. You sign joint tax returns. You could potentially be considered an accomplice. I didn't know. I believe you. But we need to prove it. We're going to file a sworn statement documenting every instance where he forged your signature. Every account opened without your knowledge. We establish you as a victim, not a participant. What do you need? Everything. All financial documents going back 5 years. Every signature comparison we can get. And a detailed written timeline. Every moment you suspected something was off. Every time he discouraged you from looking at finances. I can do that. Good. Now let's talk about Monday. When your husband is served, he's going to call you. Multiple times. He'll be angry. Desperate. You do not talk to him. Not one word. All communication goes through me. What if he shows up? You call the police. We're filing for a restraining order based on the financial threats in the life insurance situation. If he violates it, he's arrested. Okay. Mrs. Chen's voice was serious. I need you to understand something. The next week is going to be the most dangerous. When men like your husband realize they're losing control, they become unpredictable. You do not stay in that house. You do not meet with him alone. You take every precaution. I will. I'm serious. That life insurance policy isn't just suspicious. I drove back to Amy's. Sat in my car. Let myself feel it for just a moment. The fear. The grief for a marriage that had never been real. Then I wiped my face and went inside to write my timeline. That night I went to dinner with David. One last performance. He was already there when I arrived. 7 p.m. at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. He stood when he saw me, pulled out my chair, ordered wine. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you. We ordered. Made small talk. He talked about work, about a promotion he was up for, about how much better he felt about us. All lies. Marcus had confirmed he'd been demoted 2 weeks ago for poor performance. I've been thinking about our future, David said. He reached across the table, took my hand. About kids. About really building something together. I'm ready, Sarah. I want that with you. I looked at him, at this man I'd spent 9 years with. This stranger who was planning a family with me while having a pregnant girlfriend and stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's make sure we're solid first, I said. Therapy is working. I can feel us getting stronger. I squeezed his hand, smiled. I hope so. We finished dinner. He walked me to my car. Come home, he said. Please, I miss having you there. Soon, I said. I'm just not ready yet. Okay, I understand. I'll wait as long as you need. I drove away. Watched him in my rearview mirror, standing there in the parking lot. This was the last time I'd see him before everything exploded. Monday morning, 5 a.m. I was awake. Catherine had texted at 4. Papers filed. Process server confirmed. Service at 11 a.m. at his office. Marcus texted at 4:30. In position. I'll document everything. Group chat at 5. Jessica, police are interviewing me at 10. I'm ready. Amber filing paternity suit at 9. My lawyer has all the documentation. Me, it's happening. Stay strong. We've got this. At 11 a.m., I was sitting in Catherine's office. Phone on the table in front of me. 11:02. David's name. Over and over. I let it go to voicemail. Then the text started. What the fuck is this, Sarah? Call me or IGHTNOW. You can't do this. My accounts are frozen. I can't access my money. This is illegal. Then the shift. Anger to panic to pleading. Baby, please talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. We were working on things. Please just give me 5 minutes to explain. I watched the messages appear. Didn't respond. Didn't react. Catherine watched too. That's exactly what we expected. He'll cycle through anger and manipulation for hours. Don't engage. Group chat lit up. Jessica, he's calling me. Over and over. Amber, same. He left a voicemail crying. Says we're all conspiring against him. Me stay strong. This is him losing control. It's going to get worse before it gets better. At noon, Catherine's phone rang. She answered. Her face got serious. That was the police. Your husband just showed up at Jessica's apartment. He's banging on her door, demanding she talk to him. She called 911. Is she safe? She's inside. Police are on their way. 20 minutes later, group chat. Jessica. Police arrested him. He tried to push past them to get to my door. They're taking him in. He's in handcuffs. Me, did you get it on video? Jessica, my building has security cameras. Police are pulling the footage. Catherine smiled. That's violation of a restraining order, plus assault on an officer if he pushed them. This is good for our case. Shows pattern of harassment and violence. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. Mrs. Chen? This is Detective Morrison from the police department. We have your husband in custody. He's being charged with violating a restraining order and resisting arrest. Thank you for letting me know. Mrs. Chen, we're also investigating the fraud complaint filed by Jessica Rodriguez. We've reviewed the financial documents. This is going to expand. We're bringing in financial crime specialists, possibly federal investigators. I understand. You should also know your husband called his one phone call. He called you. When you didn't answer, he called his lawyer. They're preparing a defense. This is going to get complicated. I hung up, looked at Catherine. He's lawyering up. Let him. We're 3 steps ahead. That night, David's lawyer called me. Catherine took the call on speaker. This is Gerald Chen, attorney for David Chen. I'm calling to request that your client drop the divorce petition and asset freeze. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Mr. Chen has been under tremendous stress. He's willing to enter counseling and work out a settlement. My client isn't interested in settlement, Catherine said coolly. The asset freeze stands. The divorce proceeds. And your client should be aware that additional criminal charges are pending. My client denies all allegations of fraud. That's fine. He can deny them in court. With evidence, we have 200 pages of financial documentation, forged signatures, hidden accounts. We have victims willing to testify. Your client is going to prison, Mr. Silence on the other end. We'll be in touch, the lawyer finally said. Catherine hung up. That's fear. They're starting to realize how bad this is. At 3 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. You think you won? You didn't. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I screenshot it, sent it to Catherine and Detective Morrison immediately. Catherine called back within minutes. That's witness intimidation. File a police report first thing tomorrow. This adds to his charges. He's trying to scare me. He's trying to control you. Don't let him. Tuesday. Bail hearing. David's lawyer argued for release. Low flight risk. Community ties. No criminal record. The prosecutor presented evidence of financial fraud. Multiple victims. Threats. Bail was set at $200,000. David couldn't pay it. All his accounts were frozen. He stayed in jail. Wednesday, the FBI got involved. The fraud crossed state lines. Oregon and California. More victims Marcus had found. The case became federal. Thursday, David's employer terminated him. Professional misconduct. Using company resources for personal fraud. Friday. 1 week after I'd filed. To my home. Not our home. I changed the locks. Packed David's things into boxes in the garage. Walked through rooms where I'd lived for years. It felt different. Foreign. Like a museum of a life that had never existed. I stood in the living room. The same place where we'd celebrated anniversaries, where we'd talked about having kids, where I'd believed we were building a future, and I let myself feel it. The grief, the betrayal. I sat on the floor and cried. Not sad crying, cleansing crying, letting go. When I was done, I got up, poured myself wine, sat on the couch, and for the first time in months, I felt at peace. 3 months later, David's lawyer approached Catherine about a plea deal. He'd plead guilty to fraud, forgery. In exchange, they dropped the more serious charges. What's the sentence? I asked. 15 to 20 years. Federal prison. He'd be eligible for parole after 12. And I get the house? You get everything. The court will order restitution. You'll recover most of what he hid. Jessica gets her $50,000 back. Amber gets child support. Then he should take it. The plea hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. I didn't attend. Neither did Jessica or Amber. We'd said everything we needed to say in our victim impact statements. But I read the transcript. David stood before the judge. Looked smaller somehow. Broken. Do you understand the charges against you? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor. And how do you plead? Guilty. The judge sentenced him to 18 years. Federal prison. No parole for 12 years. As they led him out, he looked at the gallery, looking for someone. Me, probably, or Jessica, or Amber. But none of us were there. Because we were done giving him our time. 6 months after the sentencing, my divorce was finalized. I got the house, the car, 75% of the recovered assets, about $600,000 after legal fees. Jessica got her $50,000 back, started her own consulting firm. A real one. She sends me updates sometimes. We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. Amber had her baby. She named her Hope. I helped her set up the child support arrangement. David pays from prison. Not much, but something. Me? I got promoted at work. Started therapy. Real therapy this time. Working through trust issues. Through anger. Through grief. I started dating again. Carefully. Background checks on everyone. I'm not ashamed of it. That's not paranoia. That's wisdom. 1 year after everything ended, I got a letter. Prison mail. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. 1 page. Sarah, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know it wasn't supposed to go this far. It started small. 1 bad decision. Then I couldn't stop. Couldn't control it. By the time I realized what I'd become, it was too late. I destroyed everything. Everyone, including myself. You deserved better. You always did. I'm sorry. I read it twice. Then I burned it. Because apologies from monsters mean nothing. They're just another manipulation. Another attempt to make you carry their guilt. I don't carry it anymore. I set it down. And didn't look back. 2 years later, I'm in a new apartment. Smaller than the house, but it's mine. Completely mine. The settlement money is invested. I check every statement. Question every transaction. Trust but verify. That's not trauma. I do occasionally. There's someone now. His name is Michael. He's patient, understanding. He knows my story. Doesn't run from it. We're taking it slow. Jessica and I meet for coffee every few months. We talk about business, about life, about how far we've come. We're not close friends. Too much history. But we're connected. Amber sends photos of Hope. She's to now, walking, talking. Beautiful. Looks nothing like David. Thank God. Sometimes late at night, I think about him. About the 9 years. About the person I was who trusted so completely. But mostly I don't. Because David Chen is in prison. And I'm free. And that's all that matters. Last month, I got a LinkedIn message from a woman named Claire. She'd read about my case in the news. Her husband was showing similar patterns. Secret accounts. Financial manipulation. She hired a PI. Found evidence. Filed for divorce. She got out before it went too far. Because of what we did. What we shared. What we exposed. I wrote back, I'm glad you got out. Stay strong. Remember, you didn't fail your marriage. She responded, thank you. You saved me. I didn't save her. She saved herself. Just like I saved myself. Just like we all saved ourselves. We just gave each other permission to fight back. And that's what I want you to remember. If you're reading this, if you're living this, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Find your people. And when you're ready, fight back. Because predators only win when we stay silent. And I'm done being silent. We all are. So drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe because there are more stories like this. Stories about survival, justice. About making sure the people who think they can destroy us learn otherwise. Because the truth is, revenge isn't about being petty. It's about being free. Stay tuned.